What kind of food do you have to spill, or smell, or moralize about before it finally gets banned from the White House table? Tonight, we're going inside the presidential dining room. This is where soup gets canceled, wine disappears, and a 1,400-pound cheese becomes a national problem. First of all, yes, President Andrew Jackson really did receive a massive cheese wheel. It weighed well over 1,000 pounds, and it sat in the White House before it was finally served to the public in the 1830s. Second, the Hayes administration really did ban alcohol from official White House events in the late 1870s. That move helped earn First Lady Lucy Hayes the nickname Lemonade Lucy, even though her husband, Rutherford Hayes, likely made the final call. And third, in 1978, President Jimmy Carter signed a law that helped legalize homebrewing at the federal level. It seemed small at the time, but it later helped fuel America's craft beer boom. But some of the other stories are much murkier. Many people say that Abraham Lincoln pardoned the first turkey after his young son, Tad, begged him to spare a bird named Jack. Historians generally agree that a turkey was spared, but the word pardon and the idea of a formal Thanksgiving tradition came much later. We also hear that Richard Nixon banned soup from state dinners because he spilled it on himself. We do know he cut soup to speed up the dinners. His staff actually recorded that. The dramatic spill story shows up in later accounts, not in a formal memo. Either way, what ends up on a president's plate and what gets taken away says a lot about what the country cares about at that moment. To understand White House food bans, it helps to start with the opposite problem. A gift so large, you can't get rid of it. A literal cheese mountain. In the early 1800s, supporters sometimes sent presidents enormous wheels of cheese as symbolic gifts. It was a way for farmers to say, we may be far away, but we're feeding the republic. It was political, but also very physical. You could see and taste the gratitude of rural America. Andrew Jackson took this tradition to the next level. In 1835, a New York cheesemaker delivered a wheel reported at around 1,400 pounds. It had to be hauled by multiple horses to the White House. It was so big that people posed with it like a tourist attraction. It just sat there, aging. The problem was simple. Nobody had a plan for a 1,400-pound cheese. It sat in the White House for about 2 years, quietly becoming more powerful in every sense of the word. Near the end of his term, Jackson finally did something about it. He invited the public to a huge reception and essentially said, "Come help us eat this thing." Hundreds, maybe thousands of people carved off pieces in a chaotic cheese free-for-all. The cheese finally went. The smell did not. When Martin Van Buren moved in as the next president, the staff were still battling the odor. Accounts describe airing out carpets, repainting walls, and trying to erase the big cheese from the East Room. The gift of the people had turned into a lingering ghost in the walls. Imagine moving into your new apartment and discovering it comes with someone else's 2-year-old fridge smell. And now imagine that smell is a symbol of democracy, so you can't complain. That is essentially what Van Buren walked into. A literal and symbolic reminder that public gifts can come with a very long tail. Now, jump ahead a few decades. The White House picks up another food tradition that eventually needs new rules: the Thanksgiving turkey. In the 1860s, a live turkey is sent to Abraham Lincoln. His young son, Tad, reportedly befriends the bird, names him Jack, and begs his father not to serve it for dinner. In most tellings, Lincoln lets the turkey live. In hindsight, writers treat that moment as the emotional origin story of the turkey pardon. But at the time, it was not a formal ceremony. There was no podium. There was no pun-filled speech. There was no official paperwork. It was just a father, in the middle of the Civil War, humoring his son turkey saved. Story born. The modern camera-ready turkey pardon slowly evolves over the 20th century. Turkeys are regularly presented to presidents starting in the 1940s. John F. Kennedy spontaneously spares a turkey in 1963, saying, "We'll let this one grow." Just days before his assassination, newspapers highlight the moment as a small act of kindness in a tense year. The word pardon does not officially attach to the ritual until 1989, when George H.W. Bush jokes that a turkey is being spared from the terrible fate of the dinner table. Since then, every president has turned it into an annual feel-good ritual. Name birds, Backstories, jokes, live TV, the works. So a bird that once quietly arrived as food has become a food-adjacent mascot. It is staged, photographed, and given a scripted personality. The turkey is still a symbol of abundance. Now it is also a symbol of compassion and soft power, packaged for the evening news and social media clips. Put those stories together, a cheese gift that overstays its welcome. A turkey that goes from dinner to celebrity guest. The White House table is never just about eating, it is theater. Now let's talk about the moments when presidents decide to take things away. In the late 1960s, another White House tradition disappears from the plate soup at state dinners. Richard Nixon, juggling long evenings of Cold War diplomacy, complains that dinners take too long. He suggests cutting the soup course. Think about what a soup course does. It slows you down. It fills time between small talk and speeches. It keeps everyone politely occupied. Removing it seems tiny, but it changes the rhythm of the whole event. If you're a president who is impatient, tired, or more focused on negotiation than ritual, soup starts to look like dead air. The more dramatic version of the story says that Nixon spilled soup on himself at a state dinner for Canadian Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau and swore off soup forever. It is a great anecdote. Whether or not that exact spill is the reason, the outcome is real. For a time, soup quietly exits the state dinner menu. A century earlier, another White House decides a different liquid has to go. Alcohol. During Rutherford B. Hayes's presidency, in the late 1870s, wine and liquor are removed from official White House functions. The country is wrestling with the temperance movement, arguments about morality, and debates about how much alcohol should be part of public life. Some accounts say Republican strategists supported the move to please temperance voters. First Lady Lucy Hayes, a devout Methodist, becomes the public face of this decision. Newspapers start calling her Lemonade Lucy. At state dinners, guests still get multiple courses, fine china, and elaborate menus. They just get lemonade and fruit punches instead of champagne. The real story is more nuanced. Some early dinners still included wine before the full band, and modern historians stress that President Hayes himself made the final call. But the nickname sticks because it fits the political debate of the time. People wanted heroes and villains in the alcohol argument, and Lemonade Lucy was a handy symbol. Fast forward to the 1970s, and you see a similar pattern with Jimmy Carter, but framed differently. After Vietnam and Watergate, Carter runs for office as a humble, morally serious outsider. In the White House, he cuts back on expensive wines at some events and becomes known for more modest, sometimes alcohol-light or alcohol-free receptions. Commentators jokingly label this orange juice diplomacy. In one famous story, he toasts the Soviet foreign minister, Andrei Gromyko, with juice instead of spirits. It is thrift, personal conviction, and a message all at once. There is an intentional contrast between the luxury people expect and the simplicity Carter wants to project. And yet, outside the White House walls, Carter does not move toward prohibition at all. In 1978, he signs a law that legalizes homebrewing at the federal level. What looks like a small footnote at the time later helps fuel the craft beer revolution as small brewers and hobbyists experiment and turn side projects into businesses. So inside the mansion, alcohol is toned down to match the image of a serious, responsible administration. Outside, everyday Americans quietly gain more freedom to brew what they want. Same president. Two very different stories told through drink. If you zoom out, a pattern appears. When presidents ban or bless certain foods and drinks, they are not just thinking about taste. Jackson's cheese is about rural support and symbolism, even when it literally stinks. The turkey pardon is about warmth and softness in the middle of hard politics. Soup is time and pacing. Alcohol is morality, image, and voter coalitions. Orange juice is frugality and humility. Homebrewing is personal freedom and economic experimentation. Imagine you are the White House chef, and over the years you get these instructions. No wine because we need temperance voters. No soup because the president is tired of wearing it. No killing this turkey because the cameras are rolling. At that point, the menu is not just a list of dishes, it is a press release you can eat. And the public reads it, even if they do not realize they are reading. They see headlines about a turkey being spared. They see stories about a dry White House. They hear about a president who loves spicy food or hates broccoli. And they build a picture of the person in charge. Food becomes a shortcut to personality and values. So the next time you see a turkey getting pardoned, or you hear a story about a president's favorite snack or least favorite vegetable, remember this. There is always a story and a signal on that plate. If you could ban one dish from a state dinner, what would it be and why? Let me know in the comments. And if you like these kinds of food stories, subscribe for more. Food story signals from inside the world's strangest menus.